Hey, what's up YouTube? Welcome to this new episode of the EU4 time lapses in 1.28.3. I'm Golden Century. We are playing as Italy in this one. This is going to be a weird one because, as you can see, we didn't expend that much. This was meant to be an extremely super tall run. I usually do that as the Netherlands, who has way less provinces. I wanted to see, like, with an okay size in terms of number of provinces, how far can we push it anyways. It's like it's easy to do when you have like 10 provinces. Here we have 44. As you can see, we only took all of it, all of Italy, like the whole region of Italy. Now, before people asks, especially those who are Italian, why is Tyrol not in here? Tyrol is a bit weird because while it's not in the region of Italy, they put it in Germany. It is Italian. I decided not to take it for the reason that, well, the rule was to only take Italy, and I don't consider it Italy because region. We could have taken it because culture, but whatever. So this is it, 44 provinces, as you can see, and we end with 2,251 development out of 44 provinces. We are number 4 in development, and as you can see, this is an extremely stable map. I didn't realize that the deck cannot form. But when the Mughals, I wondered if the Mughal that released it, but no. Sorry if there's noise in the background. My cat is a bit annoying today, so she's playing with random shit. Sorry about that. Anyway, let's go into it. So the time lapse will be a bit boring because, as you can see, nothing happened. We started as Milan, as you can see, we kept Milanese ideas mainly for the def cost reduction. Best idea set to do this. Let's do the time lapse. I'll explain while we're doing this. Nothing much to do, and the start was extremely slow. Everybody was allied to big things. I had to wait. I was allied to France at the start. First move will be Ferrara, vassalize Ferrara, and eat Lucca. When Lucca disappears, Ferrara will be my vassal as well. And then from there we can start pushing. We're allied to the Pope too. Mainly because we're Catholic in the start. We went Protestant, again for development cost reduction. Granted, it's only 5% compared to other religions that's at 10, but the other religions would have been annoying to go get while staying in Italy. So I decided to settle for Protestant. It's 5% anyways, it's not that much, it's like 2.5 point per dev. It's equivalent to a lot of points, but it's not only dev cost reduction that we use to reach this. Now, I would say that this level of development, first, it's not I have valid in my head, but it's not the word I'm looking for. Efficient. It's not efficient at all. That, like, development is efficient, like, up to 30 or something like that. But past that, the cost gets so exponential. Also, you end up, especially with inland provinces, you end up having no buildings left to build. Even though you unlock new slots, because you built everything. Like, provinces that are inland without a fort have nothing to build past 40, especially if you have a tier 3 center of trade, because they give an extra building slot. So at this point, well, the Pope at Siena, he lost it, so we diplo-vassalized it. And now we're just waiting for opportunities to keep pushing. We lost France at this point, I think. Mainly because rivals was the only rival I had left, and the idea was to go show strength a lot of times on our rivals to get points. Eventually we'll stop doing it because development will be way over 100, so like showing strength gives 100 in each category. It's equivalent to 3 development. Figured the cost of fighting the war with reinforcements and all that is not worth getting 3 dev out of that. And now Naples will be the last one. And then after that, so 1592 is when we had all the land. The time lapse is going to be irrelevant past that point because we're not doing anything. You might wonder how Liege happened. The rest is a bit interesting, but I don't have info on these things. Okay, I have no idea what the hell is going on here. Okay, this... what? Okay. Maybe they lost this, I don't know. Anyway, Ming's dead, Mughals is eating it. Ottomans are huge. We can't even keep up to them. And then Spain is mainly colonies. There's no way to stop this because France got kicked in the ass. England was almost dead at some point, so they took forever, so Spain was alone. And Spain ate Portugal, so Spain was alone colonizing. As for Liege, what happened? Also that massive Brandenburg, that's pretty much because he's the emperor for a long time. So he's going crazy. But as for Liege, it was his usual 2-3 provinces minor, and France was all of this, and then he decided to attack Liege. But again, Brandenburg was the emperor, and Brandenburg just kicked out France. For some reason, he gave a crap ton of stuff to Liege. Liege wanted it because they are French. And then the second time, it's Liege that actually attacked and took all of this chunk. And then from there, well, France was down. Eventually, they went revolutionary, so they stopped fighting each other because they are scared of them. I'll let them be, because since we're a republic, revolutions don't affect us. So how did we get all those points and all those development cost reduction? So a few tricks, especially as Italy. First, eventually, you want to, since you're not going to fight many wars and humiliating stuff, you want to privateer in your rival's node. So if you're in the top 3-4 great powers, you'll get a good chunk of base, and then you have the usual as long-term rivals and age objectives, like you want a few of those, and then you can get 10 out of privateers. Now we're still making like 18 ducats out of this, but that's not the point. The point is to privateer in our rival's node. I could rival Great Britain at this point, but whatever. So yeah, I don't want to do it in Sevilla, because Sevilla we're pulling to Genoa and making money out of it, but Constantinople is on the other side. I could pull it through Ragusa, but Ragusa is one of the worst nodes to compete in, so whatever. So yeah, this is one part. Another part is prosperity. As you can see, all my land is prosper, like all of it, and it's been like that for 80% of the run. Like some people that knows about the Mediterranean will ask, how do you do that with the Berbers raiding you? Well, we're allied to Tunis. So, we kind of helped in the beginning Tunis to beat up what was left. Eventually, it ended up like this. Now, as for why Sus is still alive, Sus has been has had no truces for 100 years, and Spain's just staring at it, not caring, even though they are getting raided. That's an AI thing, like whatever. But this guy's too far to raid us. The only one that could raid us is Tunis, and we're allies, so he's not going to. So that's another thing. And the rest is ideas and being a republic. So we wanted Milan. We started this Milan for 2 reasons. First, Milanese ideas has a few things that will help save points. First, a development cost reduction here. That's pretty straightforward, right? Then we have tech cost reduction and idea cost reduction. All these things will help us save points. That either we save points as we develop, or we save points that we on other things that we can then use to develop with. So this is pretty much the best idea set in Italy. I would also argue the best idea set whatsoever in terms of development. Another thing is that Italy. Now we wanted to do this in Italy, so this wasn't exactly an option to consider. But this is an advantage of Italy, if I can find what I'm looking for. Well, granted for this part, that's what the Netherlands is strong for, also some France and England. It's all the cloth. Cloth is minus 10% development cost in that province, so all of that is pretty huge. But again, since we were doing it in Italy anyways, it's not exactly relevant. The other thing is that Milan starts as a monarchy, but if the ruler dies without an heir, there's an event that happens that makes you the Ambrosian Republic. Ambrosian Republic is pretty much the best republic in the game. It's basically oligarchic. It has the 5% taxes from oligarchic. It has 10 actually, with 5% morale of armies. It also has only 30% absolutism reduction instead of 40, so that's a slight advantage. All other short election cycles have 40 or even 50. The only one that has less is the the Noble Elite, which has 20, but then it's an 8 cycle, which is bad for what we're trying to do. And then the core of the strategy is to use political dynasties and frequent will actions. The rest after that is just bonuses on top of bonuses. It's not exactly the core of it, but these are what matters. So first of all, this one is the easiest to explain. So here you have 2 options usually. Well, you have 3 with sortition. And these are the 2 choices you really have. Sortition like gives you a ruler that rules until death, and usually it's a good ruler, but it's not a 666. And the point of this strategy is to have a 666 like easily 60% of the time, even more if you're lucky and they don't die too early. And the way you do this is with those 2 things. So first we have a base of 4-year cycle, and then with this we reduce it by 1, so every 3 years. Now for those who think that's a bad thing, it's not. The cost you pay is in absolutism, but if you're playing tall, it's not exactly relevant. And it also, the cost in Republican tradition of re-electing is relative to the length of the cycle. So the shorter the cycle, the cheaper it's going to be. So at 4 years, it's 8. This makes it 7 because it's 20% less, but then it's rounded up. And then you'll have at the very end, this is only like 1700 because it takes forever to get there. You have another 10% reduction here. You also have a policy that I didn't go for, but there's another policy. I think it's in plutocratic. If you can go for that if you want. Yeah, plutocratic, diplomatic. I didn't take diplomatic, so I didn't go for it. But the military service also has a 10% reduction cycle, cost reduction. Also, it gives you access to female advisors and female generals, and female advisors are cheaper. So there's that. But I didn't go for that. It's not exactly relevant. You got plenty of reductions. The point is to make your reductions happen often, because the faster they happen, the more stats your ruler is going to get. Also, every reduction is a 50 point free in each category. So instead of getting it every 4 years, we get it every 3 years. So just for the 50 points, it's a 25% increase in that. But on top of that, you get the re-elections. Now the thing is, if you go the normal way, if you go like without anything special, I'll get to that in a minute. Generally speaking, the 411s that you get are usually like 45 plus years old, so it's going to be rare that you'll be able to re-elect them to 666. And the way the system works here, if you can't get to 666, it's a bad cycle, as in you're paying Republican tradition and you're not getting the points for it. Because the idea is to get to 666, always focus on military so that you drown in military points, and then you use those points to rebuy the tradition you're using. With the strategy, you'll still have points to spend on military development. My strategy was to always stay above 85, so as soon as I re-elect, I would spam points to 85, assuming I'm not building ideas and technology, of course. But the idea to guarantee that you have a 666 most of the time is with political dynasties. Now this part here is a bit confusing as it's what it's written. The +1 to random stat, it's easy to understand. You have a 411, you pick him, it might be a 511, a 421, or a 412, right? But can you re-elect from ruling dynasty? That doesn't seem like it says anything. What it does is when you have a re-election, you'll have an extra option. So you have the 411, then you have an extra option. The guy will have between 0 to 3 stats, so he's gonna be shit. But he's 30 years old. He's guaranteed to be 30 years old. Now there's a bug currently in the game that if you're doing it for a re-election if you're kicking out the current ruler, instead of waiting until he dies. What's an easy way to explain that? If you're getting in the election because your current ruler dies, and you pick the dynasty cousin, this guy, he will always be 30 years old, with whatever stats he gets. But if you're just picking him up because you don't want to re-elect the guy that's in office, for X or Y reason. Maybe you took a 4-1-1 for 1 or 2 times because you needed tradition, and then you don't want him anymore. The bug is if you pick the junior, the cousin, out of a re-election rather than out of an election rather than because the guy died, he's not going to be 30. He's going to be a random year. So don't do that. Always re-elect until he dies and then take the cousin. Now, sometimes you'll want to take the 4-1-1, especially early game, as in your tradition is going to be hurting, so you don't want to just go for the... Because if you take the cousin, you want to re-elect him. That's the whole point. He sucks early, but since he's 30 years old, you're probably guaranteed to be able to re-elect him a bunch of times. And then that's where the shorter elections and the re-election cost comes in. So you'll end up having a 666 like 40-50% of the time. And then I'm just talking about 666, like a 556 is pretty good too, a 445 is pretty good too. So it's not, well, it's not exactly how it works, but you'll get up to 10 points plus after 3 elections, and then after that it's just bonuses. So this is how you get a crap ton of points. And then on top of that, we have development cost reduction through the wazoo. As you can see, if we go to Rome, which is the capital because we formed Italy, it's 51 dev, and it's still under 100 cost. Now the capital is special because you have the 50% for capital city. So if I take the cheapest province in the game, which is Milan, like on equal development, this is the cheapest province in the game. There's a few like this, but it's basically clot on farmland in temperate climate. So that's the cheapest province at 52 dev, it's 113, and these are all the modifiers we're getting. Now there's some temporary modifiers here and there, but these are mostly permanent ones. So the Renaissance, everybody knows about that. Now lowered power to barons. Is that the... No, that's the Milan ideas. Now, full economic focus, everybody knows about that. Agricultural cultivation is the policy between economic and quantity. So if you're going super tall, as I've explained in multiple videos, the go-to starter is economic trade quantity. Maybe not in this order, but definitely economic first. And then if you want to go quantity and you want to start developing early, go quantity first, especially if you have the money to pay for the force limit. Or if you want money, and I would suggest to do that first. The money is more important because early game the development is not going to be cheap. So you want to do some as you get too many points, but it's easier. It's going to be easier in the long run to wait until Tech 17. And Tech 17 is universities, but also development efficiency. So Tech 17 is roughly 30% decrease if you can put universities everywhere. The point of that is that universities are not cheap. So, and again, as I've explained multiple times, you want to snowball the economy to be able to build your buildings, to be able to build your camps, and that's where your troops is going to be. So, I would suggest going economic trade first. Also, it lets you do the trick I always do in the early game, always focus military. But don't take a military idea group, as whenever you cap on points, like keep on tech obviously, but whenever you cap on points, you spam generals. It helps you have better generals because on average you get lucky eventually. And second, it spams your professionalism without having to drill too often. That's my trick here about that, but that requires you to take a military ID group a bit later. I'll take it third eventually. By that time, if everything went fine and I didn't need to slack in too often, I'll have about 60 professionalism, which is what I want by Tech 17, because at Tech 17 is where you reshuffle your armies, you're going to fire a bunch of armies, and it's easier if you have 60 professionalism, because then fired armies goes back to your manpower pool. So you hire your troops, and then you fire whatever you don't need anymore. So this doesn't need explanations. Then innovative is more points saved. First, because of tech cost reduction. Second, because of advisors cost reduction. With this, and the money of Italy, and the development we have, we're able to get +5 advisors across the board. I wouldn't suggest doing this without innovative. Not because of the maintenance, you can probably afford the maintenance, but the cost of improving to 4 and 5 without advisor cost reduction is insane. It's like 1k to 4 and 2k to 5. So if you do this on the wrong guy that's not young enough, or if you get unlucky and he dies at 35, you're gonna be paying like 10,000 ducats every 15 years just to get your advisors. If you have nothing left to do with your money, as we do now, because all our building slots are filled, fine, it doesn't matter. You're just stacking up money for the sake of stacking up money, especially now at this point. There's no buildings to unlock, so we built everything. But early game, even if you don't have buildings left to build, you want to probably save your money. Again, because at Tech 17 you'll have a bunch of universities to build. So at Tech 17 you probably want to have, I think it costed me 20k. With the 44 provinces, make the maths. University is what? With economic ideas, it's a bit under 200-300. Well, it's actually 250 because currently my ruler is perfectionist. So say it's 250 times 44, that's roughly maybe 8k. So I would save the money because this is the core of the build, is you survive until 17 and then at 17 you go crazy. Everything's super cheap, especially with those ideas. And the third wave innovative is innovativeness. Since you're always going to be on tech, I didn't buy tech ahead of time, maybe twice, because Tech 15 I usually buy it. Tech 15 military I buy it ahead of time usually, because it's the strongest tech level in the game. But beyond that, I didn't buy anything ahead of time, and I still have 70% innovativeness, and this translates into power cost. Just to make a parenthesis here, because a lot of people are confused about the value of power cost reduction, because the way it's written, it seems like it's not much because it's one line on the screen, right? It's like whatever, 7% power cost, who cares? Now imagine that this was, instead of being written power cost reduction 7%, and it's up to 10 if you have 100, it would be written tech cost reduction minus 10%, idea cost minus 10%, development cost minus 10%, everything that costs points. I'm missing a big one. Also, everything that costs points is reduced, even things that usually don't get reduced, like general costs or at my low cost. Like my generals currently cost me 23, I think, 21 at this point. First, because it's cut in half because of this, but then beyond that, it gets reduced because of innovativeness. Well, it's additive, but yeah. So generals are costing nothing at this point. But the main thing is that it's basically a snowball effect, because you reduce your tech cost, which means you save more points, and then those points you're going to have more points to put on development, in which is also getting reduced by innovativeness. So if we go back here, organized through bishops, that's per Protestant. Farmland, World Trade Center, that's a 3. Also, that's the big advantage of trade. Trade will help you reduce your development cost reduction. Increase your development cost reduction or reduce it because you get 3 merchants, which means you can increase more center of trades. The reason we have 8 without like colonial nations or trade companies, you have the 2 base plus the 3 from trade, so that's 5. 1 from global trades, that's 6. And then we did, I'll go through that, but we went maritime. Maritime opens up telesocracy decision, so that's 7. And I keep forgetting what's the other one. Oh, plutocratic, sorry. Plutocratic ideas. So yeah. Beyond that, it's... Well, okay. These are irrelevant, okay? At this point, I had no idea what to use for ideas. I was just rushing my development to get to the point I wanted to get and finish the run. So don't pay attention to those. This was a test. It can be valuable. I'll explain it. I wouldn't go to this one, because this one would carry the cost of all of this, unless you do something with this. But this one, since it's the first, it can be worth it. I'll explain. So plutocratic, I just took it because I needed a military idea group at that point, and basically it's a new merchant, which is another center of trade. All the center of trade I can upgrade are upgraded at this point, and it's not even my cap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have an 8 one, but every single center of trade that is 2 is already in a state that has a 3, and you can only have a level 3 in a state. So if I look here, I already have one in Lombardy, I already have one in Venetia and Verona, I already have one in Tuscany. These 3 are in Tuscany, it's pretty annoying. This is in Rome, and this one's done, right? So I wanted to do it for the merchant, but then it wasn't exactly relevant. And then you have the goods produced here, and then the rest is just money, really. Also, it gets me the Republican tradition here. And then maritime, the only purpose of maritime was to duplicate thalassocracy. That was just to give me another goal to just keep interested with the run. Thalassocracy is basically a decision. I don't have it here because it's done. But first you need to finish maritime ideas. And then second, you need to control the trade in 4 to 5 nodes depending on where you are. There's 3 regions. There's the Mediterranean. Now I do this out of memory, so maybe I'm wrong. I know it's Venice, Genoa, Tunis, Ragusa, and I think it's Constantinople or it's Alexandria. You need to be top number 1 in those nodes. As you can see, I have so much trade power. It's like I don't have any land here. I don't have any ships here. And I still control the node because I have so much dev upstream. Like Genoa here. Same thing with Tunis. So yeah. And what thalassocracy gives you is trade power, a merchant, and the cost reduction. It's not exactly great to go for it in a normal run just to get the decision. I also wanted maritime because otherwise these ships are taking damage. And the way pirates works, if they take attrition, they just go to port and cancel their mission. So the way I had to do this is either get basing right, and I can get it through Venice, really. Basing right here, and then it would work. The other way is maritime finish lets ships repair in coastal zones. All of this is coastal, so they are apparently repairing, so they're actually not taking attrition. Well, they don't anymore because by Tech 23 there's no naval attrition in shallow waters, but yeah. And then whatever. Now to explain the colonists, you can use colonists to develop land. Where is he? Where we know? Okay. So you can use a colonist to develop land. Every January there's going to be a roll to see if it gains 1 development. Now the thing is, the chance is based on the settler's chance of the settler, and then reduced based on the development cost of the province. Now there's no way to know the mathematics, to see the maths. Wonder if it's going to be in settler's chance. Okay, where is settler's chance? Oh, no, it's not here. But you see, as you have 16.6 here. Production efficiency? What the heck? Anyway, I wasn't planning to check this out, but this is interesting. I have 16.6 settlers chance, but then it gets reduced because it's based off the overall development cost of your province. So my development cost reduction helps, but at the point of development I can't beat the penalties from like current development. Like it's 250-45 local missionary strength. Oh no, okay, sorry. 245 plus 25 for 4 hills. So I might have a bit over 100 in total, but it's not going to beat it. So it's minus 200%. There's no way that I can get any higher than 5%. 5% is the floor, so you always get 5%. But then you can ask yourself, so the chances goes down as the development cost increases, but the development the cost increases because the development is high. So you're like, okay, maybe I'll put it in small provinces where there's no penalties, so it's going to happen fast. But the problem is the small provinces are the ones you're going to develop because they're cheap. So you're not, if you put it in small provinces, you're not saving that many points for each point. You're getting it more often, but you're not going to get that many points off those free development. The other option is to put it on your biggest provinces. It's not going to happen as often, but every time it happens, it's the equivalent of saving a lot of points. So the question is it worth it? Now, it's only one sample, so take it as it may, but this guy has been in... I just put it in Urbino, but he was in Navarro, I think. Yeah. I stopped developing Navarro at 50, because I brought everything to 50. The reason why you see 51 everywhere, I'll explain in a second. But he got 4 development in about 40 years of being here. No, it's not that much. Is it worth the colonist? Probably not. It's not worth the ID group. But consider that the colonist cost me 300 points to get. The idea is 400 base, but then we have massive innovativeness reduction, plus we are Milan, so my ideas are super cheap. 332, I probably had an event. It cost me 300 to get, but even if you consider it 330, development in Novara is worth, it was worth 115 at 50. So if you multiply it by 4, it's easily 450, so we did save points. Is it worth taking an ID group just for that? Probably not. Also, again, as I explained earlier on, this one might be worth it, but then the other one, if you ignored all this, because I don't need the merchant, settlers don't do anything for me, this is just dust of ducats, I don't care, and I don't care about the relation. So in my case here, I would basically value everything together. The settler's chance is not enough to beat the cap, so it would still be capped at 5, so we just get 1 extra colonist for maybe 1700 points. It's never going to pay for itself. So, and then the rest of the ID group, I don't care. So, yeah, I wouldn't be taking all this just for that. Not worth it. The first can be worth it, maybe at this far, when the provinces are so costly. But yeah, again, I just took it to test it. But whatever, I would say whatever. If you want to take something else, it's better than just getting a few development points. Now, last thing, why everything is 51, right? Or a bit more. These are events. I didn't develop to above 51, but events happened, and this one is the colonist. The reason is I was finished. The goal of the run when I started is to try to see if we can get everything to 50, and it happened like 40 years ago. But then I looked at provinces, and then there was this Augsburg that has 50 and was just basically showing the middle of this. So I figured, okay, well, whatever, I'll develop everything to 51. So every single province that I have are all the largest in the world. Like, the hardest to develop is Cuneo because it's mountains, and it's done. So, there we go. 51 dev across Italy. Is it worth it? No. Past 40 development, especially in an area where there's a lot of World Trade Centers to be developed, it's not exactly worth it, because as you can see, if we go to Milan, I've got nothing else to build here. Everything's built. If it's inland, like I even build the forts just that are like redundant. I have 10 slots, but you need 9. Now, if it's coastal, you'll need 11. Sure, well, 11 if you want to put the fort on it too. Like again, the fort is just there because I have nothing else to build. And I just got lazy and didn't want the alert to show up just because it says, hey, you can build a fort there. So I built the fort just for the alert to go away. Not to cancel the alert, I want the alert to tell me that I have a fort available, not just that I always have a fort available here. You know what I mean. So, is it worth it? Not really. 40 dev, probably, maybe. But beyond that, if you play a normal run, even if you want to play tall, past 40 dev, you'll want more land, just to be able to have something else to develop. Also, as you can see, we're missing 40 states, so there's plenty of expansion, valuable expansion to have. Like just having 3-4 more states would have been way more valuable. Like I would probably go for Ragusa, well, Genoa and then Ragusa. But yeah, this was the challenge that I was giving myself, and it's done. So there you go, guys. Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying the comment, don't forget to subscribe. Also follow me on Twitch if you're interested to watch me live. I'm live almost every day. 12 to 16 hours a day. We are currently doing a Spain run. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's probably gonna be a world conquest if I finish it. If you're interested, come check it out. Otherwise, it's gonna have a time lapse in a few days. Have a good one, guys. Bye.